Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to week 2 and community engaged design practice. There's a collection of material for you to review, readings, videos to watch. So I'm going to keep my piece of this short this week because I think there's a lot for everyone to be working on. But I did want to do a couple things. I will be adding this video onto the announcement for the week that includes everything. But I thought we would just share screen for the moment here and check out the mind map. Mind map is where I keep and make sense of the course. I'm kind of a mind map freak. I will be sending a link to everybody this week for this. I believe you should be able to view, but not edit. If for some reason you are able to, please don't edit. I lost my whole mind map last semester when someone kind of erased it by mistake. So this is the whole thing. Again, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 modules, and then our final pitch. Just want to go over it real quick. So with that, I'm going to start this little slideshow. And obviously, community engaged design practice. There we go. Module 1 is basically an introduction. You are looking at this video now, which means you've gone through our week 1 overall introduction, getting to think about the pieces, really sort of thinking about overall our larger issues, what the class is trying to do. You've gotten your profile set up, all that's ready to go. So now I just want to do a little bit of a deeper dive this week into an overview of what is sustainability. It is deeply complex, lots of things going on. We talked a little bit about Professor Rob Fleming and his videos. He created a free online class about sustainability. Rob and I do work a lot together. I am an adjunct faculty member for sustainability, Masters of Sustainability at Philadelphia University, and very excited to be able to have his videos for you guys to use. Week 3, in a historical perspective, how did we get here? I think it will be important in terms of city form and exploring the city form and how the whole environmental movement and then the social movement, how all those things come together. So I think that will be a good dive for all of you. Then module 2, we get into the design process and more into the weeds of the specifics. So this module will be broken into 3 weeks. I've nicknamed it the Green Morass, just because of the plethora of rating systems, frameworks, the quadruple bottom line, as Rob talks about it, people, place, planet, and experience. So it'll be important to take a little bit of time to understand the sort of causality of these things, particularly in terms of how it affects you as a designer and how you might move forward with your project. The U.S. Green Building Council has really taken the lead, and so we will start off with them. We'll look at LEED, sites, and SEED. It should be LEED and sites, and then week 5, we'll look at SEED, well building, and living building challenge. We'll then go into ethical sort of art and innovation, huge move around creative placemaking and the idea of art and experience. So they're looking at ethical redevelopment, creative placemaking, and other non-traditional civic innovators. Module 3 will be the last 3 weeks before spring break. Hopefully by then the sun will be shining more, the flowers will be blooming. And here, each of you will be developing your personal philosophy, exploring the idea of tenets, what grounds you in sustainability design. That's going to be really important to think about. And really starting to sort of cherry pick from all these different nuances and facets and really starting to develop that. As I mentioned in the assignments, I am so excited to have a class that's interdisciplinary. If you feel you want to team up LA's architects and tackle this as a team or develop your individual personalities, and then where we see points of connectivity, link up later, you are more than welcome to do that. So keep that in mind. Spring break is over. We're back into Module 4, which is strategy development. This is where we'll really be looking at this idea of what's your philosophy, what are your tenets, and how do we start to vet that in terms of thinking about its applications to sustainability. During this period, we will be doing a lot of sort of one-on-one, some more online discussions as everyone starts to vet some of their ideas, and we'll even try to do some Zoom presentations during this time. At this point, our model refinement, we will be looking again, actually, let's go back to vetting these ideas. We will be looking at Philadelphia, a particular community in Philadelphia that is sort of prime for testing and vetting your ideas around this. It will allow you to think about that strategy in real place and real time. Then the refinement will be wrapping up sort of your pitch, thinking about how would you propose this as part of our MacArthur Foundation grant application. So we'll be revisiting what does it mean. This is, you will have developed a personal strategy, a set of tenets. We will take a real place to vet that model, to vet that strategy, and then how does that solve this larger pressing issue that the MacArthur Foundation is looking for. Then your final product will be a pitch, probably just a 10-minute video pitch on what your idea is. You will back it up with evidence, i.e. Literature search, just some materials that say, yes, some of these ideas that we have proven successful, but not in the combinations that we're coming up with. So you're coming up with an innovation, but it still has to have some evidence that says, yeah, this is valid. So that is, in a nutshell, those components that we're looking at for this. In the mind map, one of the things that we want to think about then is if we move over now to look at, in fact, I need to make sure, looks like it's still screen sharing this. This is the module section of Canvas. We're in module 1. These items that I'm scrolling through were part of that first week. Now this is where we are. Module 1, week 2. These are the components then that you will be using this week. We will get into these a little bit. Here are 2 overview on sustainability videos from Rob. They're very good. This is an excellent article that really talks about that idea of greenwashing and the commodification of green and how that's hurting us and how it's helping us. Week 2 assignment is in here. We'll pull that up real quick, and then the guide for online discussions. But for the moment, let's jump to what is sustainability. So here, we've got a little overview. This is where the video that you're listening to right now lives. Again, remember that, and if you go through these different components that Rob has put together, sustainability is deeply complex. It is energy-centric. His idea of the triple bottom line really being a quadruple is an interesting one for you guys to think about. I'm not sure why I've lost it here, so I'll make sure that that image gets back in there. I don't know why it's not showing up. It's strange. So we're not going to worry about it right now. Frameworks. So this will be one of the things where we really think about what we're trying to do with sustainability is this idea of our frameworks. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And actually, we'll just talk about it right now. I think one of the ways that we're sort of defining this right now is at these 4 different tiers: global, national, professional, and individual. As we mentioned, deeply complex, energy, triple or quadruple bottom line. And frameworks is a great way to think about the seeds, the leads, the sites. Those frameworks help us try to make sense of all of these different issues. So when we talk about frameworks, so we're going to go over here and go into each one of these. At that global level, we are definitely looking at the UN and their new sustainable urban development. There's 17 policies around that. They do have one specifically around global issues. And that is goal 11, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. I've added into, again, this is our first sort of page on what is Module 1, Week 2. I've added in their sort of statements around that goal, their targets for what they're trying to do by 2030. Read them, take a look at them. There very much is the notion of the globalization of all of this. And it's finally starting to happen thanks to a lot of environmental degradation and climate warming and everything else, but it is happening. So really keep in mind this global perspective, I think will be important for all of us to keep in mind. Okay, for some reason I was having a real difficulty getting all of the links on, but I think they're all on now. So there's Rob. If you have not watched this video yet, that's great. There, your overview of everything. He is much better at it than I am. This is Rob's philosophy on the quadruple bottom line, and I think it's really great. It adds this idea of experience, the idea of biophilic eco-design, landscape. It's just really well done. So I think you'll enjoy this discussion about that. UN, here are our 17 Sustainable Development Goals that were developed in 2015 or approved. We have also in this the specific targets for the goal 11, which is right here, which is making cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Now, one thing just on that topic, we move back to our mind map. I think one of the things I'd like to just show to you quickly is, I think it's really interesting, the syllabus has a quote from the United Nations Secretary General that says there can be no plan B because there is no planet B, which I think it's nice to see that kind of conversation. But just quickly an overview how long this has been trying to get developed at the UN level. It was 1972 when the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment really began in terms of environmental issues. We'll go over that a little bit more when we get into the history of the city. But it wasn't until 1983 that the UN actually created a World Commission on Environment and Development. And really here, their definition of sustainable development is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So interesting, your assignment for this second week is to each develop your definition of sustainable development or sustainable design. There's an example of one. 1992, United Nations Conference on the Environment in Rio was the first big one, and it created Agenda 21, which was a big deal. Since that time, we have seen Rio Plus 20 really starting to look at more action-oriented work, which is where the Sustainable Development Goals came out of. So this is a long time coming. Hopefully things will happen faster. But this idea, everyone seems to be working around 2030. The AIA is working around 2030. Everyone's working towards 2030. So next piece is this idea of frameworks. And frameworks we will get into much more in the second module when we get into more defining things. But there's a couple of things here. We just talked about global. At the national level, and jump back to this guy, I think one of the things that is interesting at the national level is obviously the 3 R's: recycle, reuse, reduce. Green has become a national commodity in so many ways. And that's where this whole idea of green versus sustainable, which is it? And the article that you have to read this week really talks about this whole idea of greenwashing. And it really is a form of spin in which green PR or green marketing is deceptively used to promote the perception that an organization, products, aims, or policies are environmentally friendly. And there's a lot of other items. And there are a lot of people that to sort of do that. There is a great discussion in this article that talks about moving away from a green party, as in a party having fun, not the Green Party as part of the presidential campaign, to a green revolution. And what does it take to really move? Those are the things that we're really seeing at a national level, not so much policy. At the professional level, oh my gosh. Now, this is where I'm not going to go through all of this because Rob, who bounds back, does an excellent job in this video. So please watch our man Rob, and he will go through a really wonderful description of those individual, those different rating systems. The individual, you guys saw this in my original video, the idea of knowledge, skill, cognition or belief and behavior. This will be one of our goals as you start to really frame your individual philosophy around. We'll be taking, everybody will have posted their definitions and their statement, defending their definitions. For this exercise, you're going to then post your definition and you're going to, and your statements on a discussion item. So over here, here's discussions, going to go over there. There is our discussion item. You're going to click on that discussion item. And in here, you're going to go ahead and post and start entering in your information. And this is where we'll be able to then start viewing everybody's definitions and their statements about those. Going back here then, the interesting part about this, hopefully, will be that once you've had a chance to review these discussion points, each of you will have 3 inspiration points. And inspiration points will be your method by which to reward your peers' contributions to this discussion. So what we're really trying to do here is recognize good work recognize meaningful work, maybe not necessarily work you agree with. And so take a little time and read through this. I'm not going to sit here and do that with you because you can do it. But, you know, you're awarding inspiration points to those who have contributed significantly to the discussion. Vote trading is unacceptable. Award inspiration points based on the quality of the message, irrespective of the content. Vote for exceptional messages, even if you don't necessarily agree with the ideas presented. And then here's your criteria for those points in terms of, I'm going to award a 3-point inspirational point for blah, 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 because he did just an incredible job and really got me thinking about things that I had never thought about in the past. So that's the goal with this. I'm really looking forward to some good discussion. I think this should be a lot of fun. We've got a lot of us. And what I do say at the end here is, this is the first time using this approach. I have not done this before. We're going to see what works best and modify it. If you see things that you would like us to do differently, start your own discussion item called Lessons Learned, and then we can start threading onto that one.